This is the calm before the storm. We all tried to warn you, nobody's prepared for what's coming. Time is of the essence, y'all better get on it. Soon, they gon' take away all the food. Those who used to eating fish gon' be tempted to eat on you. Just imagine not being able to feed your family, cause you didn't take the time to stock up food inside your pantry. What if they take away all of the gas? Well, I guess you won't be traveling. I had visions of all the major cities being restricted, so please try not to get trapped up in them. But who gon' listen? The enemy literally putting this house to your face, but you refuse to pay some attention. Y'all be too busy idolizing these celebrities. It's all an illusion. They don't play for the same team. They got one job, and that's to put out negative frequencies. Brainwashing. Look around and tell me what you see. This generation so degraded by 80% lack empathy. I'm ready for all.
Answer. Because you are that, you are capable. You are gifted, and you are soon to be opinionated. It's okay to be different. And it's so okay to just be. The world awaits to receive you.
Blessings. Let me put myself on the screen. Welcome to Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. And you're here with your host, Grace Levi. And today we're going to be talking about breaking news, topic that has been trending for the last 48 hours or so. Black dad in Ohio unalives officer in revenge after police officer unalived his son the day before. So, you know what we do? We're going to dig into this. We're going to kind of get an idea of what's out there. And, we're going to talk about it because the other day I did a live and we were talking about the Casey Allison case and I was about to say what is it? Anthony, Mr. Anthony. That other case I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm saying the right name because so many cases that we're going through. But what that goes to say, one of the things that I talked about was pretty odd, and I don't like to share it because I don't like to share that type of stuff. But I did mention to you guys that parents who have to suffer from their kids being unalive is a really hard thing to deal with, and because of our system and the way that it approaches justice in many of the cases that deal with Black people, Black kids, it's hard for some people to digest. And I did say something. I was like, if it ever happened, I may not be the right person to respond. And I said, with that being said, I wouldn't want anyone to go and be a vigilante and do those type of things. But when you push someone into a corner or a group of people who have post-traumatic slavery disorder, if you ever heard of that, we'll talk about that one day, embedded within our blood, things like this can happen. So we're going to get to it. And yeah, I think that this is really serious, and it is so weird that what's going on in our political arena as far as trying to push this race baiting, allegedly civil war thing. It's just so weird that these type of cases is being brought to the forefront and actually happening. So May 4th, this was May 4th article brought to you by blacknews.com. So nationwide, the city of Cincinnati is reeling from a heartbreaking and connected tragedy. Each underscore deep pain long felt in the Black community. First, 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, a young Black man just beginning adulthood, was unalived by a police while fleeing. The next day, his grieving father, 38-year-old Ronnie Hinton Jr., allegedly drove his car into a longtime sheriff deputy, Larry Henderson. While police call both events tragic, many in the black community are calling them infuriating and exhausting, a reflection of the tragedy and the trauma that the police violence continue to inflict on the families in the neighborhoods across America. CNN reports that according to the police, Ryan was suspected of being in a stolen car when officers approached. They say he ran with what appeared to be a gun and was shot after allegedly pointing it at the officer. So that's what we're going to look at today. Whatever video we have. We do have a video that is in slow motion, so we're gonna watch it. But it probably not as clear because the video is a little bit blurry. But the body camera footage is inconclusive. It doesn't show him pointing the weapon, only blurry motions and chaos. Yet, as it's all too familiar, the bullets came first, and clarity is expected to come later. His family still mourning, watching the footage the next day. His father, overwhelmed with grief and unable to finish viewing the video, is now accused of targeting a deputy in response. Ronnie Henson Jr. is being held without bond, charged with aggravated murder. Prosecutors claim that he deliberately accelerated into the deputy Henderson and a respected veteran officer who has served for 33 years. The courtroom was filled with officers demanding justice, but to many in the community, the deeper injustice had already occurred when yet another black life was cut short, when yet another black family had to bury a child taken by police force. Attorney Michael Wright speak on the Hilton family behalf said the footage left them shaken. Ryan had just turned 18. He was fun loving, good kid. Now his family has to deal with the police shooting with vague footage and zero clear answers. They're devastated. Wright confirmed he is filing public records requests and publishing for transparency. This is a horrific tragedy on both sides, he said, but we cannot overlook the fact that this began with another black youth being gunned down by law enforcement. Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Taggi said the officer who shot Ryan believed the teen gun was pointed at him. We're going to see her as well. But no footage confirmed that. Instead, we see officers shooting about a gun, followed by a second of gunfire, and then attempt to revive Ryan with the medical aid. The gun, reportedly recovered from the scene, had not been fired. Technically acknowledged the video is blurry and jotty, but nation in a nation where video evidence often fails black victims and police are rarely held accountable, that explanation offers little comfort to the family. Okay, a solemn presence was held for the deputy hearing at Henderson Friday night. Officials praised his decade of service and impact on the force. But as tributes pour in, so did pain and anger of the community that has been here too many times before. Another teen killed, another black father broken, another moment of silence before returning to the same question: why are we always the ones dying? Why are we still waiting for justice? Black residents in Cincinnati and across the country are watching this unfold with heavy hearts and a familiar ache. The demand is not for chaos, but for justice, for a system that doesn't always presume a black youth guilty, that doesn't always reach for a gun, that doesn't leave families with funerals instead of facts. And these investigations continue. One thing is clear, that isn't just a local tragedy, it's a nationwide wound. How many more times must we blur our own before, I'm sorry, bury our own? I do apologize. How many times must we bury our own before this system change? So this is some of the things that I have mentioned plenty of times when I talk about the cases that happen in Dalton. I'm highlighting the Lexus Wilson case. This is happening a lot, and it has to do with police training. I do believe as well police accountability and the current times that we're in. All right, because regardless of what people want to admit to, because it's hard for them to admit to, Black people, we are looked at as less than. We are looked at more at the negative end of things. When they look at Black kids, and some people look at Black kids, they look at them as adults. I.e., when my son was like 16, the neighbor literally like clutched her bag and ran in the house one time. And I was like, girl, what's wrong with you? You saw this boy since he was 7 years old. He's only 16. And this is a psychological thing that's embedded in people. So these things play a part as well. But what really stands out to me is that they say they have in 6 seconds that this actually happened, and it's so crazy because the same thing with the Alexis Wilson case, where I believe it was under a minute of encounter or less than that. Don't quote me, okay? So this is the 6-second blurry body cam showing the short encounter between the CPD alleged suspect during the fatal shooting. Basically point a gun at the officers. So I think I have this is a frame. This is just a frame of it, but we do have the video. And let's see if this is it, because we have a few different ones.
Now at 5, we're getting a look at what prompted a deadly police shooting in East Price Hill. Yesterday, a Cincinnati police officer shot and killed someone running from police.
Hold on, y'all. Let me turn up the volume.
Police Chief Teresa Thigi says the suspect was armed and was pointing a gun at the officer. WCPO 9 News reporter Connor Steffen's been following the story closely since it happened yesterday. Connor, what does the body camera footage show you?
Tanya, according to Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thigi, officers had just seconds to respond to the threat. Body camera footage that we reviewed earlier during a press conference backs that up. The time between when officers first arrived on scene Thursday and the moment shots were fired is just 6 seconds.
So for them to process.
The time between when officers first arrived on scene Thursday and the moment shots were.
Hold on, y'all. I want to slow it down real quick. Y'all know what I want to do is just see what they got going on real quick.
Fired.
Okay, so the boy
is just
so
on
look at that. We looking
Thursday, and the moment shots were fired.
Okay. So I'm gonna continue to let the video play, but I want to try to see it in slow motion, and we got to frame a shot. Y'all know what we like to do here. We like to break it down so we can make an unbiased, synopsis of what's going on. Because in today's time, if we don't do that, our emotional integrity is going to go so all over the place because they're going to keep shoving these things down our throat. Let's watch this in regular speed now.
Is just 6 seconds.
So for them to process and determine a different course of action, I think is unreasonable.
Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thigi says all 4 suspects ran into the woods in different directions when 2 officers rolled up to the stolen car. One officer chased the armed suspect, the other officer, a different suspect.
And that'll be significant here in a moment.
Within seconds of running, the armed suspect falls. The officer chasing him reports seeing a gun.
This individual gets up, still has the firearm in his hand, and continues to run through the dumpsters.
On the other side of the dumpster is the other officer chasing a different suspect.
He's got a gun on your right.
According to police interviews, that officer said the armed suspect emerged from the dumpsters pointing a gun at him.
And he felt threatened for his life, and that's why he discharged his firearm.
Chief Thigi says the officer fired off 4 or 5 shots, hitting the armed suspect twice. Police attempted first aid, but the person later died.
All right, so we're going to stop it right there. There's a minute into this that's left. But one of the things that really turned me off was the sergeant basically said that it was unreasonable to think that the officer can consider something else. And that's what the officer should have done, because right here, it's showing clearly that no gun was pointed towards the officer. Now, right here, it looks like his coat or a bag. But what I do hope that we get to see in the near future is, you saw when he fell before the garbage cans, it looks like the gun fell. So I want to see some of the evidence pictures if it actually shows that the gun was by him. Okay, because you're going to hear them say that the gun was put on him, with him, it's connected to him, but that does not mean that the gun was on his person. So I wanted to go over those few things. That's a little atrocious for her to say, that it's unreasonable to think that he could not think of something else. This is enough time to start running after him. Like, you that lazy that you can't catch this boy right here, and he already fell. So he clumsy. I just have to mention that. So it was no attempt to actually really run after this young man.
This is where we have to go to the state of mind of the officer at the time. What are they seeing, feeling, hearing? If they feel like their life or somebody else's life is in danger, they have a responsibility to stop that threat.
The two suspects in custody were arraigned Friday morning. 18-year-old Jarrell Austin and 19-year-old DeAnthony Bullocks face charges of receiving stolen property and obstructing official business.
When this happens, the outcome is almost always tragic. No one wins, and everyone involved is affected.
Court records show Austin was already facing 4 other charges for a shooting back in October. As for Bullocks, his juvenile court records show he was convicted
That is ridiculous.
of felonies and sentenced twice to custody in the Department of Youth Services.
Okay, wait, let's just go back because I want y'all to pay attention to, because they're showing their records, and these people are juveniles first and foremost. So it's a little, I know it's been pretty common for them to show these kids' face 4 other charges for a shooting back in October. So this guy, definitely could be someone connected to the gun. But it's just a little weird. I know they do this on a lot of people, but this one too, I want to highlight: convicted of a felony and sentenced twice to custody of the Department of Youth Service. So the felony could be anything. So y'all know how felonies is. So I'm looking at these kids, one, because I'm a Black mom, and it really hurt to see these babies out here doing these things. You see what I'm saying? Really thinking that these lifestyles is cool. Trying new things, trying this is new and fun to them to try. Like, so then you have the other young one, Mr. Hunt? Let me just make sure I got the right name, because y'all know I'll be mixing up name. Mr. Hinton. Okay, so Mr. Hinton, it looks like we're going to look, and they're going to start to dig into his background as well. So we're going to continue to listen to see if they're going to bring anything up about his background. And I would say this: no matter what the background is, there is certain procedures that the officers should do. Y'all know how I feel about that. We have seen several incidents where people were just outrageous, and they found other ways to approach the person without killing them. All right, so this is Blurry body cam shows short encounter. Let me see if we can see anything different, because sometimes some news stations be having different stuff. Yeah, I know what we do here. We got to compare and contrast, because we'll hear and we'll see something. And also, y'all know what I did. Y'all already know what I did. I already pulled up Cincinnati or Ohio. 2 things. I actually pulled up one. Honestly, when I pulled out one thing that I think is going on in this case when it comes to the father, we're going to talk about that. I did pull up a law, y'all. We're going to go into it because we're going to see how this case going to play out.
Now at 5, we're getting a look at what prompted a deadly police shooting in East Price Hill. Yesterday, a Cincinnati police officer shot and killed someone running from police. Police Chief Teresa Thigi says the suspect was armed and was pointing a gun at the officer. WCPO 9 News reporter Connor Steffen's been following this story closely since it happened yesterday. Connor, what does the body camera footage show you?
Now, I don't know if this is the one where the news broadcast actually act out the situation. This is how much they try to subliminally program us on how to think and how to feel. So it's one news broadcast that I saw in this short clip where he was showing that he said allegedly Mr. Hinton had that guard you now like this towards the officer. So I don't know if this is it, but when we follow up, because you know we're going to follow up. If I don't have that clip, I'm going to show you guys how they try to put subliminal messages and shove stuff down our throat and not let us actually see the video. But the next clip that we have is going to break it down in slow motion and frame by frame.
Tanya, according to Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thigi, officers had just seconds to respond to the threat. Body camera footage that we reviewed earlier during a press conference backs that up.
Yeah, so that's the same thing. Wait a second. Okay. Wait a second. Okay. I'm like, that guy said the same thing. Hold on. I just want to see if it's different. It's a little different. They did it a little different before, after this, after he said the same thing. This guy said the same thing, but they showed a little different frame. I'm like, is this deja vu? How that man says that the clip back it up. That's what stood out to me. So this is the same beginning, but a little bit different.
The time between when officers first arrived on scene Thursday and the moment shots were fired is just 6 seconds.
So for them to process and determine a different course of action, I think is unreasonable.
Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thigi.
All right, it's the same one. They just had it with a different news broadcast. The first one I showed you that's Channel 9 ABC, and then the second article I showed you was Yahoo News, and it was basically a repeat. Y'all just saw that? I had two different articles up, so we gotta pay attention to that stuff. You be thinking that you seeing something different and different. If you don't pay attention, it'd be the same damn thing. So Yahoo was showing the same Channel 9 news and possibly saying the same thing. All right, so now we're going to get frame by frame. This is brought to you by Cincinnati.com. Let's see if this look a little bit different. And then we're going to get into what Dad did. Because I honestly think Dad lost his mind. He snapped. Let's play this real quick. All right, cool. Let's put it in slow motion. Would it let us? Okay. The officers arrived on the scene to investigate a reported stolen car. 4 people jumped out and ran a different direction. 2 officers then chased 2 of the suspects. The officer chased the suspect running into the woods. He yelled to his partner that another nearby suspect running between the 2 dumpsters has a gun.
He's got a gun. He's got a gun on your right. On your right. He's got a gun.
Okay, what is this? It says the officer partner fires at the suspect. His body cam footage will be shown next. Wait, that's the guy he dropped. You see the gun? Okay. One of the suspects, later identified 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, falls to the ground. He drops the gun and picks it back up. Police said. Officers later reported in an interview they heard the gun hit the ground. All right, so that's what I want to see. Where was the gun found? There you go. Now, my thing is, it's really crazy for you to be chased by the police. Now, I know our kids are a little crazy and don't think, but you being chased by the police and then you pick back up the gun for what? And he's 19, and they're not talking about Mr. Hinton's record. I don't hear it yet because you know they talk about the boys. They ain't talk about his yet. You see what I'm saying? Because you know they're going to expose it, but I'm listening. We're used to the same old ammunition, the same rollout that the Black community has to hear, has to face. So it's kind of, so I'm waiting for them to talk about his, but they didn't yet. But let's watch. So the gun drops and allegedly he picks it back up. All right. The officer body cam is blurry, but the beige firearm recovered. Hold on. Wait, I'm going slow. Okay. But the beige firearm recovered appears to be in Hinton hand. What? That looked like Hinton hand. That's the same color as Hinton hand. So he got the gun in his left hand. So he left-handed. Okay. We're gonna listen because it is left-handed people in the world. Let's keep that in mind. He's supposed to be left-handed. His face is straight and he have the gun. Now if it's pointing this way, like the alleged news was talking about in this clip, hopefully I have it. If I don't, I'll show you on a future date, where he says that the nozzle was actually pointed towards the officer with a cross hand. Then how could they identify the brown gun handle in this picture? Okay. So either way is a little weird because the brown gun handle is the same color as Mr. Hinton's skin color.
Good.
And Mr. Hinton is running straight. And a lot of those bullets look like it hit him towards the back. So if the gentleman has the gun and he's running away, do you think that is the officer's duty just to start to keep shooting him because he has the gun in his hand? Now think about this, because some states are open carry, and I don't think Cincinnati is, but they're trying to make federally your president open carry. So if you got open carry laws and then you have officers that's in this type of state of mind, how is that going to work? What are the actual policies? What is the actual policies that they will follow when they're dealing with gun carriers? You see what I'm saying? Let's make this make sense, because what are the policies to deal with someone has a gun? That's something that we don't hear about. Let's watch though.
Get the fuck down. Good.
The individual is running.
He shot him down like a dog. Here we go. I'm sorry, y'all. That's why I tried to watch it so I could get a little bit of my reaction out. But as y'all know, I'm human, and you just can't report this type of stuff when it's your community without feeling some type of way. So, he looks like a baby to me, regardless of what's going on. And it's just not sitting well already. So that's why we're going to talk about temporary insanity. Yeah, we're going to go into the laws for temporary insanity in Ohio, because I think Dad snapped. And we're going to listen to his side of the story as well. So we're not going to dig those scenes over and over, because obviously if it makes me feel away, it definitely makes you feel away. So let's get to Dad. Now we're going to put Dad clip back on the scene minus the music. Now this was Dad in court. This is what society is doing. My man looks like he lost his mind, and he's dead serious. Like, he's in the officer's face, staring dead in their eyes and telling him he don't give a fuck. I'm just look at what we're seeing here. Now, there's two ways to look at this. You can look at it like a parent, or you can look at it just like a citizen that supports what the officers are doing. But we're going to look at it both ways, because that looks like temporary. That looks like insanity. I mean, he don't care. Whatever you want to do, let's get it. And that's the face. And that was some of the stuff that I mentioned when it comes to the treatment of Black people in America. Like, as Black people in America, no matter what type of stereotypes is put on people, or no matter what we go through in our community, within our community, we have not been more vicious to other nations than we have been to ourselves, despite the treatment, despite the history. But then you have to understand, when someone is abused over and over, like a child, a person, a wife, and they hold it in, and they pretend. When they snap, what do you think that's called? temporary insanity in the laws of America. And I really think that is the point that is pushing people, because holding in things like this, no other community had to deal with their children under the age of 16. So many of the children under the age of 16, 17 being unalived by officers on camera and barely having any justice being served, narratives being spun, arguments being had on the internet, some of the parents being harassed because their kids was killed, i.e. Alexis, what happened to Cara when Officer Perez unalived herself. They were going in her inbox as though she told Officer Perez to do that. This is how sick and bad this situation is, and we have to address it. And it's not just a black thing. The reason why is because the same tactics that they put on us, they put on all of you guys. There has been multicolored children and young adults that have been murdered. The more I've got to know, like follow Carver and see the families, it's not just a color thing, but we stand out. Okay. And once you see that it's going to be about rights, your constitutional rights, and what you can do, can say, can't say, and even when you say the right things, you may not end up in the right position and get justice in this community. You'll realize that these talks is very important, and these talks is going to lead to you going to your elected official with a different mindset, and looking at elected officials with different mindset, and your media. Okay, because here, we're not going to just follow the status quo and just kind of like, oh, it's one side. It's two sides, because our kids shouldn't. His son shouldn't have been in the car. But we also have to look at the system. If the parents can't afford it to put their kids into stuff because of inflation, low income, community based programs not available, high taxations, what do you think the kids are gonna do? And then they're bombarded with the internet filled with derogatory, harsh sexualism, murder. Like sometimes I'll be listening to these video games, like it be commercials, and all you hear is the gun going off. Like, y'all ever heard that commercial that just pop up on your feed? This is what they're subjected to. So we definitely have to step it up all around the board, especially parents. We got to, and I know it's not easy. So let's go. Harvard chain of events in Ohio as man charged with killing deputies day after cops killed his son. Twin tragedies unfold in less than 24 hours in Ohio this week after teen was shot and killed by Cincinnati police, and his father then tragically mowed down the retired sheriff deputy with his car after being showed footage of his son's death. And lawyer told the Post. Rodney Hilton Jr. appeared in court Saturday to face the aggravated murder charges in the death of the deputy, prosecutor said. On Friday morning, 2 hours before the deputies were struck and killed, Hinton Jr., 38, had gone with his family member to meet Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Techley to view police body cam footage of the death of his son Ryan. So this plays a major part. That's why temporary insanity is something we're going to look at, because this literally happened 2 hours after he watched the footage. And y'all know I want to always bring it back to reality for my audience too. In the Alexis situation, Cara did not look at the footage. She refused to look at the footage. And it was one to remember her child the way she remembered her. But I can make much sense of that, because that will sometimes switch somebody's mind. And I think that's what happened here. You know, I'm surprised that they let them see it so fast before the investigation was done, because we don't like that as the general public, where they be like they holding a body cam because they be trying to alter stuff. But I do think it should be a little buffer. especially when it comes to something like this, and highlighting the times where all this stuff going on with the race relation thing, and nobody's really considering what Black people are thinking. They're just waiting for our reaction. So it's a lot going on mentally with Black people in dealing with this. Even as I told you, I had to make decisions in my career because I deal with two Caucasian families. One Caucasian family, no, I don't know issues. Cool. Second family, little issue, little racism in the grands, and probably in the friends. And me, like, hey, you know what I'm telling y'all real stuff. Like, hey, should I do this? Should I be here for this baby? Or should I get up out of here? Because these people in Bowling, what if one of them want to rape me? What if this is serious, and the other nations are really not thinking about what we're thinking and how we're feeling. That's why I say y'all are really gonna have to come to bat and really take control of y'all system, because we've been fighting against the system for so long. Our hands is up. We're not gonna. A lot of Black people are not participating in the system, and I know y'all hate to hear that. A lot of people don't want to have no parts to it, or they have been excluded thereof because of charges, false arrest, all types of stuff. And right now, it's gonna be you guys fixing the system that you guys allow your people to break. So this man, in my head, just kind of pre-assessing it, may have felt like he got nothing to lose. Like, it's a Trump world. Nobody's gonna give a fuck. Basically, I'm just being honest, and I'm gonna do what I think is justice. Okay, I know that was a little hard pill to swallow, but I think that's something that people really need to consider, because Black people are doing a lot of TikToks, things like that, and expressing themselves. But it's a deep grievance within us. It's a deep psychological tear within our community because of the things we went through. And before I get back to this article, as a Black mother, like, it just took 2 years ago, last year, for me to not be so afraid in my heart, in my mind, in my spirit when my kids go outside, especially my son. I had to pray and tell God, please stop these thoughts in my head. Anytime I hear something, feel something, they call, it cannot be like that. No other nation knows that feeling. I don't care what you guys say. That is the product of what we went through, period. So let's get back to this, because we're supposed to be emotionless Black people. Okay? Yeah, let's get back to it. Now, Ryan Hinton and 3 others were accused of stealing a car. That's the young boy in East Price Hill section of Cincinnati Thursday, when officers approached the stolen vehicle. So that's what we saw, which the owner had outfitted with the tracking device, according to the report. And that's another thing. What is wrong with our kids? Like I said, they don't think, they don't know no better. They know technology, everything could be tracked. They say things on the internet, have wars on the internet. They teach each other how to do scams on the internet. It just doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they know that the car will have a tracking system? I know that. I don't keep my cars in 2015 and older. Y'all like, what? Heck yeah, because they ain't got tracking systems on there. That black box that Obama made and put on the car. You know what I'm saying? But let's play this to see if it's something different, because they're gonna be talking about dad here.
In honor of fall tonight across Ohio, flags at half-staff in honor of fallen Hamilton County Sheriff's Deputy Larry Henderson.
He was so well liked and so well known. We could fill this building with the law enforcement agencies that respect him, love him.
The recently retired 33-year veteran was working traffic patrol Friday afternoon when police say he was intentionally struck by the father of a teen fatally shot the day before by an officer from a different department. Henderson later dying at the hospital.
There is a connection between these two incidents.
38-year-old Rodney Hinton Jr. is now behind bars and charged with
temporary insanity. He didn't even go after the officer that actually did it. We're going to get to temporary insanity. He didn't even go after the officer that actually did it.
aggravated murder. Court documents say the defendant drove across oncoming lanes of traffic through the intersection and directly at the deputy, who was wearing a fluorescent vest.
There are no evidence of skid marks. There are no evidence that he tried to avoid him.
In court, Hinton's public defender calling this an emotionally charged situation. The crash happening less than 3 hours after his family says Hinton met with Cincinnati police to review body camera videos showing the shooting of his 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton. The videos, now publicly released, show Hinton running and being shot by city police. Cincinnati police say the teen was armed and pointed a gun toward an officer.
All right, let's go. Okay, so the gun is in the bushes. Let's remember this picture because y'all remember I wanted to know was the gun in between the garbage can or the bushes. So it may have looked like the young boy picked the gun up. It's ridiculous.
Who was responding to a call of a stolen vehicle.
He's got a gun.
I know some people like, but the cops could have moved it. I'ma shut up. But it looks like it's in the grass, okay? We're looking at all sides here.
He's got a gun on your right,
Hinton was shot about 6 seconds after officers get out of their vehicles.
You good.
He wasn't supposed to, Peter. He wasn't. He was scared. He tripped and fell. He must have been so scared.
I can tell.
I'm so sorry, Ryan.
Exactly. You remember we said he tripped and fell. It's not only not coordination, he may have not, been a career criminal, because at this point we don't hear not career or be used to that type of situation, because as you can see, they haven't brung his record up at all.
We are very close family. This is killing us.
Tonight, the teen's family speaking out with their family attorneys who say they're investigating the shooting.
I'm angry because it shouldn't have never happened. I want to find out exactly what steps was taken and the protocol.
While also offering their condolences to the deputy they say was tragically killed.
In that statement, you made a point to notice and acknowledge the pain that the family of the fallen deputy is feeling as well. What was in your heart when you did that? Why did you find the need?
I was crying about what happened to the innocent officer, so that's all it's all about. It's all about healing each other.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. That officer was innocent. He didn't even have anything to do with it. And that's why I'm thinking temporary insanity. So what we're going to do right now is that we're going to look into understanding what it means to plead temporary insanity. This is a second level resource. You know what we do. We show first and second level, but this is second level, which is a law firm or a legal website that's credible, that is used by other legal officials and things like that. So this is a law firm, Fitch and Shaley. I'm saying it right or wrong? Y'all let me know. All right, here we go. So understanding what it means to plead temporary insanity. Let's get to it. Temporary insanity is a defense that can be used when a defendant believes they shouldn't be held criminally liable for their actions due to temporary impairment in the ability to make sound judgment. The temporary insanity defense may be suggested by a criminal lawyer when it can be established that the circumstances leading up to the crime act had an immediate impact on the defendant's state of mind. You see that, when we highlighted 2 hours before he did this, he literally just looked at the video. So he was crying, going through so much, and someone should have been with him. To successfully establish the defense of temporary insanity, it must show that the defendant was suffering from a medical defect at the time the crime act occurred and that this defect affected the defendant ability to differentiate between right and wrong. Now, medical could be mental as well, and temporary insanity is a mental diagnosis. Okay. Legal standard for temporary insanity. Each state has the responsibility of determining how it defines and upholds a defense of temporary insanity. There are four basic standards that states allow or states follow. One, the M. Knighton rule, the irresistible impulse test, the model panel code test, and the Durham rule. Okay, both. So let's see if we will find that. And if we don't, we're going to go into it because we're going to follow this case as well. This case is going to be like 3 or 4 cases you're going to see this channel follow, and this is going to be one. So we're going to go into those as well when we do our part 2. Both Ohio and Nebraska follow the M. Knighton standard. The M. Knighton standard defines the insanity plea in criminal cases as the defendant being unable to distinguish between right and wrong actions, or their judgment was impaired due to a disease of the mind. And he had to not be able to determine right and wrong because it made no sense for him to randomly go and not to any officer. Now, it would have made more sense if it was the officer, but just randomly, he knew he didn't have no type of self-control. What happens after the plea of temporary insanity? While you might hear the phrase temporary insanity used quite frequently in crime dramas, the reality is that it is used as a defense is quite different. An experienced defense attorney isn't going to attempt to establish temporary insanity in the case where the defendant elements fails to exist. From a legal standpoint, this means that the plea of temporary insanity are relatively rare, and even when they are employed, the success rate is low. However, in true cases where true mental impairment exists, a plea of temporary insanity provides the opportunity for someone who otherwise who would not have committed a crime to receive rehabilitative treatment rather than more severe penalties of incarceration. In the event that the plea of temporary insanity has been accepted, the court will rule that the defendant be placed in a mental institution for evaluation and treatment. On the surface, it may seem like it is a better option than incarceration. However, the judge does not determine the length of treatment. Instead, how long a person remains in the mental facility is determined on the prognosis and period review. In some cases, the amount of time that a person spends in the treatment facility is longer than the sentence they would have received. Now, this is information and educational purposes only. You guys know I'm not a lawyer. I love to research law as a legal nursing consultant, but I do have experience in a psych ward. I was in this nursing facility psych ward for actually the first year and a half of my nursing career, and I dealt with these type of patients that came in and pled temporary insanity. And they had this facility was in Jersey, and it had 3 different levels. It was a long-term care. The 3rd floor at the top was more functioning ones: schizophrenia, murder, all just all types of stuff, bipolar, not regular bipolar, but bad bipolar, just other stuff, and medical diagnosis. The first, that was the note, is the I call it the 3rd, but it's the 2nd, and then the 1st floor was people who had long-term illnesses, maybe like Crohn's disease, MS, things like that, but they had mental diagnosis. This facility mixed these people because, and then the bottom floor was basically like demented patients, mental. But I had one guy before I left. I had this is what made me leave because I was at the facility for the whole last semester of my nursing career. My nursing program, and I was a CNA, and they hired me as a nurse. That was my first job. And one of the last patients that I met, is 2 reasons why I left, but this was one of the reasons that really freaked me out. It was 3 reasons, but this one, it was a young guy that came there. He was about 22 years old. He plays temporary insanity, and he was so functionable, but they had him on so many drugs that he would just be like this. Like they had him zooted. And what he did was art his neighbor, which was like 80 something years old and unalived her. Okay. They had him in that type of facility. Those facilities are bad. They are dangerous. And it does depend on the doctor, and the doctors will keep you there for a long time because they get paid pretty well to keep those type of patients there. So that's kind of the foundations of temporary insanity, just generally, and maybe some of the outcomes, okay, of that. But I wanted to let you know I have some history in it, and I dealt with some of them. That guy right there, I was like, nah, we good. I'm not doing that floor no more with him because he stood right there in front of the nurse station, just stared at me like straight. I was like, nah, nah. I kept telling him, I'm not your nurse, go to your nurse. And it wasn't working. That is not a joke. So Ohio criminal, I just had to show you. I know I'll be sharing my stories with y'all if I got something to connect. Criminal Sentence Commission, not guilty by reason of insanity. This is a reference guide that I found of Ohio. You know we're gonna do it. You know we're gonna bring the facts here so we could kind of figure out what may happen, supposed to happen, was not gonna happen. But at least we definitely learn from it instead of just going through the heartache. We're gonna, we're gonna send our prayers to the family. We're gonna do that at the end of the broadcast and the officer. But what we're gonna do is stick to the facts as well. Okay, no propaganda, nothing. We just giving it to you. Now I don't know. We're gonna do the full 11 pages here. So, what is not guilty by reason of insanity? So, hopefully, it's pretty similar to what we read. It says a person is not guilty by reason of insanity relative to the charge of the offense only if the person proves by a predominance of evidence and in the matter specified in section 2901.05 of the Reserve Code that at the time of the commission of the offense, the person did not know as a result of severe mental disease or defect the wrongful of the person's act. The defendant who does not plead not guilty by reason of insanity is consequently presumed to have been sane at the time of the commission of crime. So if you don't plead, you sane. What does not constitute defense of okay? Um, NGRI, temporary insanity, not guilty by reasonable insanity. Proof that the person's reason at the time of the commission of the offense who is impaired that the person did not have the ability to refrain from doing the person's act or acts does not constitute a defense. So proof of the person's reason is not a defense. So they can't say, oh, because he knew that was his son. He knew they can't use that as a defense. So as far as the cops against him to not constitute that, so they can't eliminate it because of that. How is competency different from the not guilty by reason of insanity plea? So competency is a knowledge base. Some people have learning defects. Okay. Competency to stand trial is termination by the judge about the defendant's present mental condition, about the defendant's capacity to understand the proceeding and assist in the defendant's own defense. So it's assessing the defendant's own defense. So that's when you're not competent. But I don't think this is what he's going to be able to plead. But I do think temporary insanity because he lost his ever loving mind. Jeez, he didn't even have the correct target. The plea of not guilty by reasonable insanity asserts an affirmative defense regarding the defendant mental condition at the time of the offense. Again, it's saying kind of the same thing and focus on the defendant's knowledge of the wrongfulness of the defendant's action at the time. Now, if he wasn't temporarily insane, like if he was just thinking, he would have been like, all right, I'm about to get this cop. We're going to figure out who this cop is. Like if he really wanted just to get the cop because he was planning on it because of what happened, then I think that's where he could not. But because it was not the cop, I think that his lawyer may have something to fall on. Entering not guilty by reasonable of insanity plea. Who may raise it? Only the defendant may either plead of NGRI, and the plea may be made before the commence of the trial. The plea must be made in writing by either the defendant or the defendant's counsel. So evaluation for it. If the defendant enters a plea of not guilty by reasonable insanity, the court may order one or more evaluations of the defendant's mental conditions at the time of the offense charge. Who conducts the evaluation? Now, we're in the right state, so we're getting the right information. If the court orders the evaluation, it must be conducted by any examiner, a defendant, by O.R.C. of the court chooses. So the court chooses the court. Hold on. The examiner must be, the court must be qualified psychiatrist or clinical psychologist, or be in employment of the Department of Mental Health and additional services to conduct such exam. Administrative code, postdoctor follows many participation in the participation. Okay. Postdoctoral follows many participant in the participation of report and may co-sign report on which have made significant contribution. No examiner may co-sign a report prepared by a postdoctorate psychologist follow without having personal participating in evaluation of the exam. So basically, if you have a co-signer, that co-signer has to be part of the exam process as well to solidify that. What is the time frame and format of the evaluation? An examiner must send a report to the court within 30 days after the court order the evaluation. Evaluation may be conducted through electronic means. So we're going to stop right there because I don't know if he's going to plead temporary insanity, but I want you guys to pay attention, because if he do, and when he do, because I think he is going to put them black 8 balls in the chat, and we're going to be revisiting this. I think this is going to be a trial that they're going to put in front of us. I really do think they're going to show it to us, and then we're going to be able to see some things happen. Temporary insanity examples of how they used in court. So let's just look at this real quick. Hey, y'all know I'm gonna do it. Criminal law. Let me just make sure. Okay. Let's put it on the screen real quick before we get out of here. Let's see how it may be applied. Some examples. Thank you for being here with Grace Levi. If you'd like to go over court documents, go over cases that are happening right now, and get into the nitty gritty, this is the channel for you. We're not going to do short reporting. We're not going to do fast reporting, flash reporting. We usually wait to some point of climax so we can bring a good deep breakdown, so we won't be so all over the place like most news do to us, have us all over an emotional roller coaster. So you're going to see we ain't going to be hitting you with every single day of drama, but we're going to hit you heavy with the information when we can do it. Okay? All right. Historical context of evaluation, example of temporary insanity claim, emotional turmoil, immediate threat, psychological shock, process evaluation. Let's just read these last three and we're going to finish off the broadcast. So emotional turmoil, I think 2 of them going to fall over for the dad. I'm going to be honest. Emotional turmoil is a common basis for temporary insanity claim involving overwhelming emotions that impair judgment. For instance, Lorraine Bobbitt was acquitted. Lorraine Bobbitt. Y'all remember that? I was young. How old were y'all when Lorraine Bobbitt happened? I had to be like 13 or I don't know. How old y'all? Lorraine Bobbitt was acquitted of charges after severing her husband's genitals, with the jury accepting her defense due to psychological abuse she endured. Psychological. The challenge in such cases is proving the emotional disturbance was severe enough to meet the legal standard. So immediate threat. Now we know it wasn't an immediate threat to his life at that time, so we're gonna bypass that. Psychological shock. Psychological shock can be underpin a temporary insanity defense when a sudden traumatic event disturbs the defendant's mental state. The defendant must establish that the shock was so profound it temporarily impaired cognitive function, often requiring in-depth psychological evaluation. Okay. So I really do think that is what went on with the young man's father, Mr. Hilton. And we talked about a lot of the factors today. I hope you guys see it from a different angle. I hope you guys are able to kind of get to look at the deeper side of how some Black people feel without the emotionalism, sensationalism. That's what I'm trying not to add into it, but it'd be hurtful to watch these type of things. But I just want you to watch this clip one more time and tell me, am I off when I'm thinking temporary insanity? Look at his face. He literally looking in the cop's face, and he just don't care. He just looked at them all like they're just animals, or the same way that some of them look at us is how he's looking at them. And at this time, we're going to finish off today with our brother Ezekiel. We're going to hit you with a little Hebrew teaching. I want to say thank you so much. All praises to the Most High. Thank you for being with us, going through this journey, growing with us. Please hit the like button, and we will see y'all tomorrow night when we get back to some of our adulting content. Have a great evening.
Would you like to learn a brand new and innovative way to invest your extra money that has a low barrier to entry and low competition? What if I told you that there's a guaranteed method to get up to 18 to 20% return on your investment? Tax lien and deed purchasing is the only way to get into the real estate market through the back door. No credit and no loans needed. This method isn't commonly taught, and therefore the competition is very low, for now. Put together a 14-hour info-packed course which will teach you everything you'll need to know to get started. Learn at your own pace, step-by-step guided video and aids to start you on the TLC deed investment process. The course offers many learning tools for new investors, helping ensure you safely invest in tax liens and deeds. Contact us today and join the buyback team.